and welcome to the No Holds Barred Witchcraft podcast. Chris, give me a sign. Give me a sign for the new year. No, that's a rude sign. I don't want that rude sign. Oh, no, not the Illuminati sign. Oh, Chris, this is going to be a terrible year if you're giving me dodgy signs. If you're not swearing, you're doing some sort of Illuminati eye triangle shit, aren't you?
Can't help it. Can't help
You're
it.
going to give us a bad reputation. And they'll all start calling us shills again. Shills of the Illuminati.
They come to us for the occult knowledge, Liam. They come to us for the occult knowledge.
What, the Illuminati?
Yeah.
Or the shills?
The Illuminati, because they don't know much these days.
They are merely just pawns in our game, aren't they?
Them and those golden arches.
Right. This episode is called Give Me a Sign, and you suggested we do this today because it's technically the beginning of the year, even though most people that are listening to this will probably be listening in the future. So, for them, don't worry, it's just as good as any other podcast episode is not dedicated to this specific seasons, of setting New Year's resolutions and all that jazz. It's actually got nothing to do with any of that anyway. Why did you say that this would be a good one to start off a year?
So I just kind of feel like this is a sort of time when people set goals and then they look for affirmation. So they look for something to be going on that kind of confirms what they believe. So I kind of feel like this is a nice time to talk about kind of superstition, talking about how people look for signs, particularly when it comes to kind of casting spells. When people start off, they kind of do this kind of like, they find some way of confirming, don't they? So you've got some people who like to do, wax readings after their candle work, or, they always do it after. Whereas I feel like I kind of want to share the sign of something coming, which is kind of the other reason for doing it this time of year, just after the whole, special guy's birthday, Santa Claus,
Santa Claus had a birthday?
No, it's the big JC.
JC.
So obviously,
you mean
having
the GC?
Big JC.
The big JC. Jesus Christ, superstar. Right,
yeah,
that one.
That kind of following a sign of, the blue fairy.
Star. Just look at the brightest star and carry on walking. Eventually you'll find a baby. That baby will be the Messiah.
Basically.
If anyone questions it, kill him.
Is that your top tip to paedophiles, is it? Follow the brightest star.
The brightest star.
And you'll finally find a child in a manger ready to be taken.
Yeah.
Or are we going a step further and are we looking for the virgin? It was an immaculate conception, I promise. Immaculate conception, I promise.
One woman's lie that just went too far.
Too far.
Right, so give me a sign. I'm thinking particularly of these spells and such. When Tequila, she goes and she buys from Glastonbury some very expensive, she buys it in overinflated price, a cheap paraffin candle that she could have just got from Watt or Regina's or a supermarket or something. Instead, she buys it from Glastonbury for £10, let's say, in a little baggie, and that baggie comes with a little bit of oil, probably some sort of olive oil. Maybe they're cheap and using rapeseed oil. And then that's got an essential oil in as well, because that's just the carrier oil. See, they're too cheap to give her a bottle of essential oil in her spell kit. They're diluting it with some carrier oil. All these capitalist witches, Chris.
Geniuses,
and then obviously
what they are, Liam, geniuses.
It comes with a little bit of incense, incense, dried herbs, basically. They're calling it incense. It's dried herbs that are something to do with money. When you open the Llewellyn book on the page that it says money, there's an incense recipe. It probably got some bay in it or something like that. Anyway, that's in the little book, right? And the little instructions it says about that. All the correspondence says you've got to say what your season's intention is. Hold the candle, charge it, which basically means hold the candle with one or more hands, close your eyes for a bit, and think really hard about what the fuck it is you actually want, and whether buying a spell kit for £10 to £50 is really was really the best choice. I would suggest if you do buy a spell kit for £10 to £50, clutching at that little candle that inevitably will probably be in that spell kit, really thinking about whether it was such a good idea to spend and waste this money on a spell kit. I would think that would be a very interesting spell, very interesting manifestations and dreams you might have. Anyway, ℍ𝕑𝕤's got her spell kit. She's got the candle, the paraffin candle. She's poured oil all over it. Okay. She's gone all fuck, because she's just put these fake nails on and now they're covered in oil, and she's opened they haven't got anything toxic in that's going to interfere with her new nice plastic nails. She's thinking fuck, but she really, 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 really wants to replace the current boyfriend she's got with a taller, more handsome and, richer model. So she's bought the spell kit, Chris. Okay. She's rather hypergamous, this one. She's done it. She's put the oil on the candle. Now she's rolling it in herbs, which is getting all over her fingers. Didn't think about putting gloves on, of course, but she's ℍ𝕑𝕤. I mean, come on. She hasn't got any marigolds rolling around. She just orders takeaway. She don't cook. She can't cook. Why a need for marigolds when there's no need to wash up? I mean, it comes in the takeaway plates that she gets from the takeaway. She just puts them straight in the trash.
Liam's telling a story, everybody. He's really setting the scene.
She lights the candle, hoping to God that this is neither flammable nor inflammable oil she smothered all over both herself and the candle. And now she's thinking long and hard, staring at the flame, of the qualities of the man she wants to bring into her life. Okay. And then the candles are gone out because it's spent, much like my enthusiasm for dozy bints like this, right? And now she's saying, I did the spell, I followed the instructions to the letter, and I've disposed of the spell in the bin. Not my bin, it was a public bin, because that's what the instructions told me to do. I disposed of it. But how do I know if my spell has worked? She needs a sign, Chris, an omen or something. How does ℍ𝕑𝕤 know that her spell has worked or not worked? Is she just got to wait for 20 odd years for this other man to come along? Or is there a sign or something that this spell is in fact working? Is she going to walk out and see up in the picture in the sky? There's big picture.
Giant penis in the size of
she's going to see a giant penis in the sky, and that be confirmation that that really rather rich, tall, attractive, and hung man is on his way. Just follow where the penis is pointing. Is that what you get? Is that what you get? You'd get that from a Thoth witchcraft shop spell, I'm sure. But
oh yeah,
penises
in the sky is a guaranteed for all spells of the love variety that we sell.
Should we just program that in from now on? Every spell we do is just like it's confirmation.
It's got giant penis in the sky.
I think we should get rid of when we get mentees and that to do that orange ball manifestation.
Also, it has to be a cumulus. I mean, cumulus cloud.
Cumulus or cumulus. Yeah, we'll get rid of that orange ball manifestation ones that they always like to practice their spells on, and this weather magic, and we'll combine the two to try and make penises in the sky. And you'll get extra Thoth points if they get testicles with them.
Yeah. So I kind of feel like you described a very hoodoo inspired based process for
them in Glastonbury
for the kit you just sold.
They're definitely jumping on the hoodoo bandwagon because the hoodoo people are very good at this capitalistic kind of selling products and such.
They are very good at this.
It's gone out of kind of the more cunning folk style of craft, all about the practitioner and such. Now it's all about, DIY, do it at home, buy this pussy candle, i.e. the vagina candle or the pussycat candle, little black pussycat candle. I don't know. You can insert whichever candle you prefer there.
So obviously a lot of those practices talk about kind of candle wax readings.
Oh yeah. She was Googling it after, Chris, looking for a sign on Google. How do I know if my spell worked? Oh, by the way, there was a bit of black wax left with some herbs encrusted on it. What does that mean?
Well, I was going to say you do an excellent little video on candle wax readings, don't you, Liam? That they could go and look at online.
They could.
But not to be a shameless, plug there, but more about the fact that what always bugs me about this sort of process is that they do it after. So
Yes.
surely if you were going to read something, you'd read it before.
Yeah.
You'd want to do that divination work beforehand, which is my first kind of comment about kind of divinatory omens and kind of follow up. Second part is, if you really planned a spell properly, you could include the sign in the planning stages, so that you wouldn't need to do a divinatory afterwards, because you would say, I want to know when the man with the massive penis is available, so I can go find him at the coffee shop. I want to see this sign, and obviously it's a big cumulus in the sky of a ginormous penis, that just kind of points in the direction that it's time to go to that coffee shop over there and not that coffee shop over there in the other direction.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't want to miss out on Prince Charming because I went to the wrong coffee shop now, would I?
No.
So there's this part of it is that. Part of it is people looking for signs afterwards that I kind of really dislike. So I think that if you're going to program some kind of decision or sign of something coming into your process, then you need to kind of plan that process through as part of the spell itself. So there's same with when we manifest an orange ball, kind of like you'll want to know exactly what is the manifestation you are expecting to get. So is the spell for the perfect first date? Is the spell
she
for
just wants a man. She wants a better man than the one she got. That's all she wants. She don't want much. She just wants that.
But surely that person needs to expand on and say what a perfect guy actually looks like.
Yeah.
So I don't mean looks like as in feelings.
He needs to be attractive. He needs to be tall. He needs to have a 6-figure salary and a penis over 8 inches. That's what she said. That's all the qualities she needs.
Then I'm hoping she's going to go for a bit more than a paraffin candle in the hope to get all of that.
She might have to go full on beeswax. Is that what you're saying?
She may have to go full on beeswax, definitely. Especially if she's trying to sweeten a deal like that, needs something with some honey in it.
Right. Well, ℍ𝕗 clearly knows fuck all about magic. That's why she was shopping in Glastonbury or bought a Glastonbury spell kit. So ℍ𝕗 can just go and maybe decide to spend the money on getting an actual magical practitioner to do the work for her, or in any way teach her at least how to do it properly. Obviously, the Glastonbury lot selling these things because to protect them from being sued and such, they're selling a product, a curio, not the result, of course, aren't they? Much like magical psychic readings are for entertainment purposes only. You sell a candle rather than yes, you're getting a man. You're not selling the result, you're selling a candle essentially. For the real genuine magical practitioner, if they want to do spells and such like that, we're recommending obviously that in the spell process that they program the spell to give readings and such. I talk about compass spells sometimes, which is not supposed to make the person or thing manifest. It's actually supposed to lead you to the thing, which normally involves some sort of signs and omens. For example, that one ℍ𝕗 could do if she was doing a genuine compass spell, it would guide her to the man of her dreams, the man that she's supposed to be with and such. I would probably make it amusing and make it so that, yes, it did manifest a penis in the sky and that she had to follow the penis, or just follow pictures of penises or things that look like penises until she found the man. I think that's a hilarious manifestation, but that is signs and omens.
Also, there are penises everywhere, so it's
Yeah.
actually a really easy spell from that point of view, because you can follow the aubergines until you finally get there. It's not a difficult thing. That is a commonplace situation that could be actually followed.
Yeah.
So jokes aside of the pair of us making penis jokes, but ultimately, in reality, we talk about spell working following the easiest route. That is one of the easiest routes that could possibly come up. Is there are lots of things in our culture these days that are penis shaped. It would be quite easy to follow the penis shaped thing. It could also potentially be too common and therefore difficult to distinguish.
But we could put a caveat. We could say she needs to follow penises over a certain size.
Yeah. Or a particular vegetable. If you want to be specific and say, I'm going to follow the aubergines until I find my man with the massive aubergine, like you want to know. The added part of that is actually thinking about what are you actually wanting. Because actually, if you're talking size matters, are you really going to want the aubergine? Because no one really wants to try and take an aubergine. They really want a sizable courgette. The shape of the omen might be helpful in kind of going, actually, I'm looking for this guy. Obviously, we're being very playful and tongue-in-cheek about it, because this, hopefully, in this kind, if you can get past the filth, you can get to the fact that actually there is a logic that is being followed through. And you're going to want to follow the easiest pathway possible, the path of least resistance, in order to get from A to B when you're planning your spell and you're working in that kind of triangle situation.
So I often find when I cast spells and such, I can feel the spell working, not just whilst I'm casting it, but after I've cast it. I still have some sort of connection. I can kind of feel it, and I can feel it encounter some sort of resistance. So I tend to find that gets highlighted. It draws my attention back to it to do further work and such. Maybe someone's interfering with it or something's happened, I get my attention pulled back to that. I'm not really one that tends to get a lot of signs and symbols and omens and stuff for spell work. However, what I have noticed with certain people that have been doing magic over a certain amount of time, that've got a lot of experience, is they start to notice similarities. So if they always do candle spells or always do a honey jar or something like that, then there's somewhat repetitive signs and symbols and omens that come up because they've done it so many times before. If they suddenly start doing honey jars and it all starts going, gross, that kind of thing, then they think this is very strange. Whenever this has happened before, the spell has failed to work, or if the candle explodes or something like that, or fails to light, then people start to think, well, actually that whenever it doesn't work, that always seems to be what happens. What I don't like and what I can't abide is people when they put lists of these things up on the internet and say, well, your candle didn't light, therefore it doesn't work. It's like, no, you need some evidence to base that on, in which case, if you've done 100 candle spells before and you've had 55 of them work, and all of those ones that worked had one thing in common, and that is that they burnt completely without, leaving hardly anything left, then you can say, look, that's a good omen, that's a good sign. If you're just reading something that says, well, this wax has gone this way, or such and such, or it started to smoke, or the candle flame's too low or too high or something like that, then that's not you. That's not you seeing a sign. You're being told something there. And going into actually another subject, because the first thing with that, of course, is repetition. It is actually starting to learn the effects and see the symptoms and all that sort of thing. One other thing of signs and symptoms, signs and omens and such, is when dealing with spirits, of course, because there are a lot of signs and omens and such related to spirits. Or I saw a crow, or I saw a black dog, a ☍𝕠𝕝𝕤𝕣𝕣𝕣𝕖𝕕 must be about. It's like, no, you might have just seen a black dog, or you might have just seen a nothing at all, or there might actually be your neighbor's dog's escaped again, you know, that sort of thing. As another one that I say, this all needs to come from your past experience. If, for example, you are working with a specific spirit and that spirit is related to snakes or something like that, and you start seeing snakes, and every time you start seeing snakes, that spirit approaches you in your dreams or something like that, or you have some sort of manifestation of that thing, that's something that you've learned. That's something that you've noticed, you know. Oh shit, there's a snake in the garden. That means she's on her way tonight. I know when I go to bed, I'm going to end up having a dream with that one. You know, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. But again, reading things up in books and stuff like that, that will only give you what basically these days will only give you copy and paste. It'll only give you what other people have copied from other people. It's not even a guarantee that you're getting information that works for other people at this point.
Yeah. And that's a big one, is because particularly when it comes to signs and omens when working with spirits, it's a case of going, well, actually, I often use a kind of rule of three of kind of going, well, that thing needs to have repeated itself at least kind of 3 times for me to really believe that's a sign. Which is generally my kind of rule of thumb, is because you're wanting something to repeat. You can't just say, I saw this once and therefore X is happening. You know, I saw a dog once and therefore, you know, I've been reading this book about. It's kind of one of those, at the very least, I feel omens and signs come in threes. At the very least, you will have seen something occur enough in your sphere that you've noticed it. Because to me, if you've seen 3, it's probably happened 10 times, but you've noticed 3 of them.
Right.
Whereas if you've only seen this thing once, then it's a case of, well, was it a coincidence? Or was it just a you've happened across? Whereas I feel like a third, if you've seen 3 within a small space of time, I think how many you've potentially missed. So I kind of find a rule of 3 is quite safe.
I would agree. I'd say the 3 thing, but I'd say that there would be one exception that I've noticed. And if we're going for magical penises and such as signs and such, if we program that into our spell, I'd say go big or go home. I.e. is going to take 3 average omens or 1 really fucking big one.
Yeah.
So if I do get up in the morning and I see a giant penis in the sky, I will take that as a win. I'll take that as a big one, right? I'll take that as, okay, this is a very big sign and a very big omen. Whereas if it's minor things, I would say I want to see this as a repetitive pattern throughout my day or throughout my week or whatever like that. So I go big or go home. 3 normal size average omens or 1 really fucking big one is what I would require, I think.
Yeah, and I think in terms of big, it's kind of how common is it? So I think for kind of orange ball kind of situation, to kind of compare it to that, is, you know, have you seen little orange dots everywhere, or are we talking there's a fucking orange the size of my head in my hand? Like, those are the difference of kind of going. So like, you know, birds is a big one for a lot of people. If you live in an area where actually crows and ravens are quite common, but you suddenly see a blue jay, to me, people wouldn't think, oh, corvus family, they're all related. But that's rare. I've not seen one of those before. Kind of that in that moment is noticeable. It's a one big thing over the size of multiple little things. Like, you know, if you're in an area where, yeah, we've got loads of blue tits, but if we very rarely see a bird of prey, and you suddenly have a bird of prey turn up, then that's the sort of thing you take notice of in that moment. And what it is a symbol of is always a tricky one, because ultimately people will go looking in the wrong places for their signs. For me, I'll only ever really use the internet for identification. So like, if I kind of go, I don't know what that was, I might go looking for what it was. I might have a very quick look at kind of symbolisms around that particular bird, because there are umpteen suggestions, regardless of what bird it is. Auguries have been a thing for a very long time. It means there's lots written about the symbolization behind each bird individually. You know, they won't even be as kind of bland as any of the tit family. It's actually going to be specifically, when I see a grey tit, it's very different to when I see a blue tit. It will be that specific because people have been watching birds a really long time. I think there's kind of a limit to that. You kind of look and then you put it away and you wait for what's occurring next. So whether that's you visited in a dream, you see that same bird again 3 weeks later. It might be that it's nesting in your nesting in your roof. But actually, you've got to kind of see it through, I think, is what people see the one omen and they go, oh, it must be. And a lot of it's because they're eager to be met by something, particularly when someone is new to the craft. When they're suddenly kind of going, oh, well, I need to meet my my goddess kind of situations, and then the next minute, you know, like you say, ᴘᴏ𝕣𝕣𝕣𝕣𝕖𝕕, a stray dog comes up to you on the street, and suddenly it's ℍ𝕠𝕝𝕤𝕣𝕣𝕣𝕖𝕕 here. Now, I think we can both categorically say if ℍ𝕠𝕝𝕣𝕣𝕣𝕣 wants to get to know you, she's going to make it clearly fucking obvious that she wants to be involved, which I think is why kind of the rule of three is normally a good kind of benchmark, as you will have seen something at least 3 times, even just for that to get your notice, really. Because if you're overly, like, unless, like Liam says, it's a massive thing, you know, this huge fucking bald eagle, and you're not even in the States, suddenly comes and sits on your fence, I would fucking take notice of that. But the more subtle things of, you know, ravens coming and tapping your windows 3 times, that's
11, Chris.
Something that's
11 minutes past 11. I see it every day when I finish work. What time do you finish work? 11 o'clock. And it takes you 10 minutes to walk to the car. Yeah, whenever I sit in the car, it's 11:11. Almost every day. What does it mean? I googled it. It says something about, I don't know, angels. The angels that want to talk to me. Is that right, Mr. Chris?
You know. And that's the thing, like, for me, I think repetition is the very least you could expect, because otherwise I feel you're looking for a sign. You know, if you're certain on the first time you see that thing, you are looking for a sign.
Well, these sad losers are looking for something, Chris. Anything that will distract them from their miserable, shitty little lives.
I would never be so rude, Liam.
Sure you would. Okay, so signs, symbols, omens, stuff like that. So there's a couple of things that signs and symbols actually are. So the first thing is that they could be seen as a method of divination, I suppose. If you are to ask a question, this means yes, this means no. That's one thing, like signs and symbols and omens through divination. If you ask a question, yes or no, like this idea of babies, is it going to be a boy or a girl and stuff like that. I'm not sure what the sign is. So was it magpies or something like that? What is it for a non-binary child?
25.
25 magpies for a non-binary child. Okay.
420 blackbirds.
Okay. And then you've got the idea, obviously, of it being a thing that you follow, like following the signs, following the keys, something like that. So that's more of a compass thing. So it's like, yes, this will keep coming up. You need to follow it, you know. The other thing that I like in terms of signs and omens and that, which I think is one of the is a very ancient form, and that is preparing you for something. So when we have the ideas of signs and omens and symbols and stuff from people like Nostradamus and that, it's all about, get ready because this thing is happening. you know. So prophecies and that kind of thing, it comes with signs and symbols and omens. Like you've got that book of Revelations in the Bible about the end times, and these are the signs and symbols of the end times, which you can read into and overread into.